Welcoming all our guests on International Affairs, being broadcasted live from the Dhaka's Gulshan studio. I am, of course, Samsul Alam Panto, your host of the program today. There are many topics that we should discuss for this betterment of this global earth. Before I jump into the discussions, let me introduce my panel. Here in the studio, I have Professor Rashid Alam Bhuiya. He's a professor at Dhaka University. I welcome you on to the program. As well, alongside, we will have our geopolitical correspondent, Norman Floyd Barnes, joining us from Washington District of Columbia. I want to begin with the situation in the Middle East, specifically with Iran, with the U.S. We have reports that the Iranian military has downed an army helicopter, an Apache helicopter belonging to the U.S., in which the U.S. says that they have impacted Iran in 3 strategic locations around the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's state-run broadcaster is reporting, stating that it has affected the water reservoirs, cutting off the area's water supply. As I believe the fighting still remains, Iran has targeted U.S. bases in the region, which also looked at Kuwait and Bahrain. Both the nations, including Jordan, have said that they have intercepted missile barrages directed from Iran. I want to begin the conversation and discussion with Norman Floyd Barnes. A very good morning to you. What are the updates that we are seeing as of June the 10th? Norman, a very good morning to you.
Greetings from Washington in Virginia. The news for today is that the official word is there was a collision between a Iranian drone and a American helicopter, Apache type helicopter, causing the helicopter to crash. The 2 pilots and crew members was rescued by a drone, American drone boat, a unmanned mechanism that they sent out there, and was able to retrieve them and bring them back in without injury. However, the response to that is that the Iranians sent missiles and drones, attacks in Bahrain and other areas in the Middle East, and the United States responded to that. They responded by sending, shooting missiles to bases, communication centers in Iran, and so they're back and forth again. You shoot a missile to me, I shoot one back to you, and I hit your base, you hit my base, and we go off and have tea, talking about peace. So this is getting to be a very old, long, and drawn out process where these 2 countries are acting like juveniles in terms of dealing with the core issues. While they're doing this, the world is suffering. The prices of everything going up. The cost of living is coming extremely difficult for most people in the world outside of the elitists, which some of them are. And it is now getting to the point where frustration is sitting in, that we are very serious and very concerned that this conflict is ever going to end. The way things are going, it looks like it's going to escalate regionally, globally, and to something else without any type of resolution. Another Gaza situation, another situation with Ukraine. So so nothing has been achieved. It just additional. I throw one rocket at you, you send one rocket to me, and we go back and, like I said, we go back and talk about peace. It can't happen that way. It's nothing's going to be changed because there's no trust. And there's the people who are dealing with this are not interested in a resolution. They're interested in keeping the conflict going on. And I suspect it's driven by profits.
Right. And as Norman Floyd Barnes was stating the obvious here, as we've seen, both the nations, the U.S. and Iran, are acting like juveniles, as accurately mentioned. However, when a ceasefire and when to move away from war, both sides must have mutual respect and a long-term trust between the two sides, whether it be economic cooperation, if not trade ties. Of course, according to the UN agencies, they say the longer the Strait of Hormuz remains contested between the various nations, it will have a negative impact towards those who are dependent on it in terms of agricultural seed supply. I want to come to the studio with Professor Rashid Alam Bhuiya. You were hearing Norman Floyd Burns, and you have the study regarding the Strait of Hormuz, how Donald Trump has said that he must respond after taking down of that Apache helicopter. And I believe it is coming just around when the world is expecting the greatest show on earth, the FIFA World Cup, to resume just on the 11th of this month, tomorrow. I want to get a know-how from you. How do you see this? The countries are still fighting. There is no de-escalation, even while we see heavy bombardment from the Iranians towards these Gulf states.
Thank you so much for bringing me here, and thanks to the viewer of the SATV, and thanks Norman for his inputs and insight. I think the war, we are now more than 100 days of the war, and this is a very much reality, although there are ceasefire is announced, but we have seen there that ceasefire is not rigid, it's flexible, and both of the party are actually violating that ceasefire. Actually, it comes from Israel, particularly when US and Iran agreed to the ceasefire, but that ceasefire is not respected by Netanyahu and IDF, and a couple of times, particularly Lebanon was very much included in that ceasefire. Right. But when IDF violated that, then this escalation, you said, that taken place, particularly the US Apache helicopter, which was drowned yesterday, probably this morning, and US responded. Actually, that is limited strikes, I think, from the US side. So we have seen some restraint between USA and Iran, but the problem we have seen from the Israel here, and Israel is very much meddling the water and meddling this ceasefire deals. I think a couple of things you have to be look into this ongoing conflict, like Iran's continuous resilience, particularly when USA easily toppled down Venezuelan regime. People thought that Iran, the same things will happen in Iran, but we have seen the mosaic doctrine of war and unity among the Iranian nations, and Iran, resilient capacity in this war, and become a world center of attention at the moment. And secondly, Iran able to maintain its axis of resistance. It didn't left out his allies, particularly Lebanon, Gazan people, and also Yemenis. So that axis of resistance is still very much intact. That is Iran's success. And thirdly, we can see Iran has successfully manufactured some tussle between the Gulf countries and also the Arab League. You can see the Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman in one side. On the other hand, UAE, Kuwait, Jordan, they are on the other side. So there's some sort of creating disunity among the Arab leagues in that. So that is another success of Iran, and Iran managed to get some allies, and at least temporary allies, from some of the Arab countries. And also, US citizens' unconditional support to Israel also reduced. Last week, CNN survey showed us like 85% of the US citizens no longer supporting unconditional US support to Israel, because they are suffering from this war. And their inflation is too high, particularly people who supposed to pay $200 of oil bill, now they're paying $400. So the people of America are themselves suffering. That is another success, and another dimension of war, particularly the tussle between US and Iran, Israel long-term relationship, particularly Trump as a president. He is humiliated a couple of times by the Netanyahu. No other US president has been humiliated that much as Trump. And I think couple of social activists like Tucker Carlson, Anna Kaspersky, Jeffrey Sachs, Mersheimer.
Very recently, Christine Welker in the interview with Donald Trump.
They have played a huge role in terms of this global solidarity towards the human rights in Gazan population. What is happening in Gaza is inhuman, and these social activists now somehow manufacturing US concern that this unconditional support to Israelis is a mistake, and that can also cost global communities as a whole, not only the Muslim people. They already dehumanized the Muslims, but now everybody is saying that they are also killing the Christians. So that is the great development from this war. I think some sort of balances will come out from this conflict, and Iran will emerge as a victorious party from this war.
Excellent remarks made by Professor Rashid Alam Bhuiya in the studio. As I make connecting the dots, the very next question on how Israel is doing with those they take in prisoner. A new Al Jazeera documentary exposes Israel's use of rape in jails. Testimonies collected from former detainees, which detail systematic torture and sexual violence while in Israeli custody. And not only so, 6 nations imposed sanctions on networks financing enabling occupier attacks in the West Bank. They include the United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, France, and the New Zealand and Norway, which announced sanctions targeting networks enabling settler attacks against the Palestinians in the West Bank, a very contested neighborhood. Of course, this move came in a response to record settlement expansion and rising Israeli occupier violence. I want to ask regarding this very issue with Norman Floyd Barnes, what are actually the Israeli people are trying to prove? Do they see other humans as humans, if not as animals? As we collect the data from this new Al Jazeera documentary, it is a huge concern to understand where we stand as a people. Of course, it was called Bodies of Evidence, Israel's darkest weapon. I want to ask Norman, how do you see this as Israel continues to batter Lebanon in southern Lebanon as well?
Thank you again for that question. That question is very thought-provoking. The question you asked, how could a human being do this to another human being? Well, my response to that is that these human beings, these people, this government, I'll say the government, not the people, they have been programmed through their suffering and pain, dealing with Europe and dealing with the world after World War II. They have been programmed to the point where the only thing they know how to do is to follow the script that they are accustomed to. So what are you seeing is that no, they cannot appear or have the feeling that this is another human being. They have a mission of annihilating, exterminating, creating genocide, create a situation where there's a cleansing of what they call their programmed enemy. So everything they do is inhuman in regards to dealing with the removal and the extermination of the area. They do not want the Palestinian and the Hezbollah. They do not want anyone there except the people they choose to be there. So by having these Palestinians still remain in the area creates a problem for them generationally, because they know that if they do not kill each and every one of them, which they are not going to be able to do, they will have no chance of surviving in that region. That's because of their temperament, the government temperament. They have no purpose in doing anything. Their only purpose is to make sure our enemies will never rise up again and attack us and kill us. So we must make sure they are cleansed from the surface of the earth. Very gruesome words, but they are looking to cleanse a civilization of people who deservedly should have their own land.
Right, and increasingly interesting statements made by Norman Floyd Barnes. It's very gruesome to understand how humans can actually accept torturing of other humans regardless of ethnicity, race, background, and of course nationality. It's time to take a short commercial break. Afterwards, we see this beautiful planet in how administrations around the world are implementing laws and rules for their citizens in their betterment in the growing of their societies. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to take a short commercial break. Do stay tuned on this program. Hello and welcome to International Affairs, and my name is Shamsul Panto.
I don't see an easy resolution to this because every slight deviation from the plan,
opening an open war conflict with them.
Testing nuclear missiles.
Russia's announcement of these supposedly successful testing.
Special and exclusive footage that is being played on SATV screen.
Really coming to terms with Hamas.
Damage estimated between this entire issue.
President Trump is expected to hold bilateral talks.
Preserving biodiversity and tackling climate change.
We cannot protect the planet before we negotiate peace.
Where is it going? Is it understanding the needs of its people before the needs of this global world?
For China to come to agreement,
They will face better projects.
With presidency of China and President Lee of South Korea.
Trump's White House that is in favor of these things.
simply not enough action being taken to address the problem of fossil fuels.
What their plan initially is towards the Caribbean, a place that has been met with two types of disasters.
Bangladeshi students at the same level of opportunity internationally and domestically.
International Affairs. Watch every Sunday to Thursday at 2 p.m. only on SATV and SATV Digital. Hello and welcome to International Affairs, and my name is Shamsul Panto.
I don't see an easy resolution to this because every slight deviation from the plan,
Opening an open war conflict with them.
Testing nuclear missiles.
Russia's announcement of these supposedly successful testing.
Special and exclusive footage that is being played on SATV screen.
really coming to terms with Hamas.
Damage estimated between this entire issue.
President Trump is expected to hold bilateral talks.
Preserving biodiversity and tackling climate change.
We cannot protect the planet before we negotiate peace.
Where is it going? Is it understanding the needs of its people before the needs of this global world?
For China to come to
Welcoming our viewers back on International Affairs. Of course, I'm joined with Rashid Alambuya here in the studio, while we have Norman Floyd Barnes in Washington District of Columbia. I want to also talk about some of the issues that stem from Israel and its society, as we are hearing increasing violence coming from Christians in Jerusalem, predominantly involving ultra-Orthodox Jewish extremisms and sometimes IDF soldiers. It is one of the rising trends that show that no other particular religious group or minority group is actually safe from violence stemming from Jewish extremism. Of course, there is the latest news I want to follow up with you all. The Foreign Minister of France is reaffirming his commitment to protect Christian presence in the Holy Land, as he condemns attacks on Christians and their institutions, as stated by the Foreign Minister Jean-Noel Barrot. I want to begin with Norman Floyd Barnes. As I was reading out, what are some of the violences, instances, and of course violations of other religions? As we've seen earlier on this year as well, the father had not been allowed to enter the Holy Church in Jerusalem, as it was still ripe between the wartime situation. I want to get a know-how from Norman Floyd Barnes. This does affect, if not inflammate, some of those who are of the believing type. I want to get a know-how from you, how you see it. Various religious groups are being affected just to be a part of Israel. Norman.
Your question brings up a very interesting topic. Is basically the church and the state, the governments. Religion is supposed to be designed for the people. The state or government works for, by design, for the people. So when you have religious groups all religious groups deny their ability to do what they believe in, it creates a real sick environment for the human being, meaning I do not have a religious right to pray or to practice my religion. I'm denied. I'm being crucified. I'm being chastised. I'm being denied ability for me to practice what I believe in. Now you get into a situation where the principles, the human principles, are now being questioned. Why do we need governments or anybody telling us what we can and cannot do? Remember, the people, believe it or not, supports and allow the government to do what they do. So when you get into religious rights, regardless of what's going on, you get into a very sensitive generational situation that cannot be condoned and accepted. Just because your government don't want you to practice a certain religion or they want you to do something they want you to do, they are forgetting who's who. The government will never be able to tell people what they can believe in and what they can't. They can tell them what they can do, but what they believe in, that's not going to happen. So there's more people than there's government officials. So I suspect that this control mechanism to control who can come in or what they believe in, or a small group controlling, is not going to be digested well by the majority of the people on this earth. And at some point in time, it may be sooner than later, the governments have to go.
Right, and as Norman was stating, the governments and the access between the people and what they are allowed to practice, what they believe in, and how they should carry on their daily lives. It's important to analyze the situation in Jerusalem, in the Holy Lands, how these violations are playing in. I want to ask Professor Rashid Alam, we've seen how Pope Leo has definitely condemned any kind of war and stated that it is a very bad mark for humanity in the coming days. Straining relationships just because not seeing eye to eye on religious factors stemming out from Jerusalem, stemming out from Israel and Palestine as well. Just your comment before I can ask you regarding another story.
I think, I mean, this is hugely frustrating, and this is a matter of condemnation, like Israel's and IDF continuous attacks on religious churches, mosques, peoples, unarmed population, civilians. So that is frustrating, but it is a good development in my context. Particularly, so far the Europeans people are no longer considering Muslims as Muslim as a human being. So that's why they remain silent, and they're not doing anything for the genocide that's going on in Gaza. But I hope such development, particularly this attack on Christians population and their religious institution and their religious expression, will ignite some sort of humanity among the European people or European countries who continuously selling arms to the IDF and Israel. If they feel that, if they consider Muslims are not human beings, I am not feeling their pain, so I hope they will now feel some sort of pain when their brothers of same belief, like the Christian, they are also suffering from this racial supremacist episteme classes who doesn't bother children or adults, who doesn't bother Muslims or Christian, who doesn't bother human being, who only consider that the Zionists and the Israelis as the only people who should live in the earth, have the racial supremacy over all other kind of people or population, race, whatever it is. So that is a huge, provocation, and that has to be stopped. In Second World War, you stop Nazis who wants to do that, and now the so-called, they said that they are being genocidal attack on the Nazis by the, the genocide on the Israelis, Jews by the Nazis. But same people who say they are the victim of that crime, now they are doing the same crime to other population. So world community has to understand that this is a virus, this is an ultra virus which needs to be stopped Otherwise, the global peace, global humanity, and existence of the human, particularly the whole region and it's all should have a reciprocal effect in every corner of the world. So this needs to be stopped by. I mean, you have to stop trading with the Israelis. You have to stop selling arms to the Israelis, and you have to, stop any kind of support. And our Muslim brothers, Muslim countries, they have to have these lessons. And the citizens of those countries have the responsibility to use those, unjust government in those countries. Otherwise, this community will not be saved.
Of course, excellent remarks by Rashid Alam Bhuiya regarding the crossroads we see between religious ties and ties between the government and their citizens. I also want to talk about how information is being used in the modern day. As the examples said by Rashid Alam Bhuiya back during the Second World War, when we've seen the Nazis trying to impose various rules and regulations regarding the Jews. Back then, we did not have social media or media that has been readily accessible by millions of people worldwide. Today, however, the entire discussion has changed, as even between US and Iran are fighting, we have all the updates, the latest attacks, the detailed reports, the data stemming through us and the entire world using social media. And that is the next story I want to bring out in discussion with Norman Floyd Barnes. I want to begin with you. Many nations before Canada has banned social media for under the age of 16. It started initially with Australia banning under the age of 16 for social media, which came into effect December 2025. Alongside Norway, United Kingdom, France has pushed through. But in the latest safety bill, we see the Identity and Culture Minister of Canada, Mark Miller, saying that the kids are dying. The Canadian government is to introduce a digital safety bill with social media ban for minors. I want to just to ask Norman Floyd Barnes a very thought-provoking answer and a statement. The kids are dying. The absorption of information at such a subtle age is definitely not positive for those young minds. Would you agree, Norman Floyd Barnes, regarding this very issue?
The issue here, we're looking at it, let's look at it a different way. The information put out there is assumption. There's assumption that it is causing the death of our next couple of generations. The quick response is yes, but the more concerning thing is how this information is being distributed. The source of it, the information is going to go. We living in an age right now, information is free fall. Artificial intelligence allows us to get information all the time, anytime, anywhere around the world. So the information is out there. It's how these corporations, these entities, these government-backed entities are changing the narrative. The narrative is being put in there, and in the media, the AI just puts out what you put in. Basically, if you don't put if you don't put negative information in the system, you won't get negative information out. So the issue is how we're processing information, how the information is being put out. What is the design? Everything is designed to have a cause and effect. The effect. I put the information about this because I want to get a response in that manner. So the standards of information being released has to have some type of control. If you don't control, everything goes out there is not factual. It's not true. It wasn't intended to be factual true. It was just put out there to stir up the hornet's nest and create a problem. And the problem becomes now the story. The results of it. I put a bit of information out there and then someone else take it and they blow it up and they put it in the right situation at the right timing and the word mastered it to a point where it incites people. Our youth believe in what the adults say. They believe that the adults are looking for them to do the right thing. So when you put information out there, you're basically trying to customized them to a point where they will now have to react and respond based on that negative information. Unfortunately, AI do not have a monitor or basis saying this is wrong, this is right, this is true, this is false. It's just information. How they process it is what they do. When they receive it in a different manner, they have no way to verify it, contradict it, or compare it. It's just information. That information is causing us our pain. The information has been put out there designed to be I basically say it's weaponized. It's weaponized to cause the next generation to start thinking about, well, I don't have it tomorrow. All I have is a few minutes today. And these few minutes today, I don't see in the future. So I'm going to basically destroy myself and much I can because I'm hurting and I'm not getting any directions from the adults or the people who know better. They're just sitting around and say, well, I don't know, another bad day. No, these students, these young people are processing. They're trying to figure out how they fit in with the rest of the world. And right now, they don't see a place. They don't see a place for the world as we live in now in the next couple of generations because of how we deal with each other. And there's no standards and no one has any sense of shame.
Right. And as Norman Floyd Barnes was stating regarding social media and how information is one of those important characteristics that we use to fit into society. Let me also recap something that has gone viral on social media. A knife attack which took place on Monday night in northern Belfast was filmed by a witness and has gone viral on social media. In the footage, a man can be seen pinning a visibly bloodied man to the ground and attacking him multiple times before bystanders and police managed to subdue him. It also gave ground to a lot of protests, anti-immigrant protests in the UK, which took to the streets on Tuesday, the day afterwards. A 30-year-old man believed to be from Sudan was charged with the attempted murder, as mentioned by Prime Minister Keir Starmer, condemned as horrific. Once again, we see that massed crowds gathered in parts of Belfast on Tuesday evening, setting houses, a bus, cars and barricades on fire. I want to ask Rashid Alam Bhuiya, we see the role of social media in this very case, as Norman was stating, and as I recapped an incident of this very week. Want to get your analysis. Social media, is it beneficial to society? If so, and where are the drawbacks of using such platforms?
Yeah, I think that's a tricky question. I admit that there are some very much bad impact in the society, particularly like this live telecasting of the knife crime, and that have reciprocal impact on the immigrants as a whole in the Ireland and also in UK. But yeah, we have just a few minutes ago, I have also positively noted that the development currently that taken place in USA, particularly the social activists Tucker Carlson, Anna Kaspersky, and Jeffrey Mersheimer, their social journalism also positively contributed to the US citizen awareness about what Israel is doing to the humankind. So there are both positive and negative effect from the social platform that we are using currently, because that's the biggest source of information that we are eating at the moment, that we are observing at the moment from this social rather than other mainstream media or other whatever you say. So I think that have both positive and negative effect, but that needs to be controlled. Disinformation, we want to see that as much as control of the disinformation, so that the social harmony hasn't been affected by, like as you said, the only the immigrants are victimized in the case of Ireland or in the UK, but it's a social crime, and you have to see it from that perspective, not as an immigrant. All the crimes are committed by immigrants. Immigrant is the most the responsible and vilifies them. That's not the correct approach. Rather, you have to deal with like a social crime approach, and every citizen, irrespective of their immigration origins, irrespective of the national origin, you have to deal it like very much out of discrimination, and you have to see it in like a very social lines. Of
course, important and interesting statement from Rashid Alam Bhuiya. Before I can go to a break, just want to ask Norman, you were talking about information, use of social media, as I connected it to a recent knifing incident in Northern Ireland. The suspect flew from Paris to Dublin and entered Northern Ireland in February 23. He claimed asylum upon arrival and was permitted to stay in the UK until 2028, and he has caused a criminal act of violence. How would you value this, how the social media has played in to this very aspect?
Well, the situation is that you have bad actors, and most of the bad actors like to be on somebody's show. They like to see themselves in the press, to see themselves in the news. They like to have a sensational outgoing. So basically, if there's no platform, no showcase for this, no acknowledgement of their identity, I will suspect they will consider doing something else or not doing it at all. The whole point is that they want attention, and they want attention in the worst way. By doing something they think it will be historical, be a martyr, or have some effect on the narrative.
Right.
But the issue is that people who do these things, we just had another incident that's mentioned in South Africa, outside of Johannesburg, in a community called Cleveland, which is based a shanty town. A vehicle dropped off some unnamed people, and they went through the village killing people, and they went out the other way in the same van and left, and they're still missing. So these acts are designed to incite a response. The response is not going to be a positive one. It's a negative one, and it creates turmoil and ambiguity in regards to how the people and the government coexist. Basically, what they're saying is, your government can't take care of you. I'm going to show you how. Your government don't respect me. I'm going to show you how. So by doing these things, they want to incite the people, to have the people rise and respond in a manner which is contrary to the existence of the current government.
Right. I want to thank Norman Floyd Barnes' excellent remarks and use of examples from not only in Northern Ireland but also in Johannesburg. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to take a short commercial break. Afterwards, we see the dual characterization of the FIFA World Cup, how many players are treated with dances upon arrival, leaving their planes, while the other players are being subject to be sniffed by security canine dogs. It is time to take a short commercial break. Do stay tuned on this very program. Hello and welcome to International Affairs, and my name is Shamsul Panto.
I don't see an easy resolution to this because every slight deviation from the plan,
opening an open war conflict with them,
testing nuclear missiles,
Russia's announcement of these supposedly successful testing,
Special and exclusive footage that is being played on SATV screen.
Really coming to terms with Hamas.
Damage estimated between this entire issue.
President Trump is expected to hold bilateral talks.
preserving biodiversity and tackling climate change.
We cannot protect the planet before we negotiate peace.
Where is it going? Is it understanding the needs of its people before the needs of this global world?
For China to come to agreement,
They will face better projects.
With President Xi of China and President Lee of South Korea.
Trump's White House that is in favor of these things.
Simply not enough action being taken to address the problem of fossil fuels.
What their plan initially is towards the Caribbean, a place that has been met with two types of disasters.
Bangladeshi students at the same level of opportunity internationally and domestically.
International Affairs. Watch every Sunday to Thursday at 2 p.m. only on SATV and SATV Digital. Hello and welcome to International Affairs, and my name is Shamsul Panto.
I don't see an easy resolution to this because every slight deviation from the plan,
opening an open war conflict with them,
testing nuclear missiles,
Russia's announcement of these supposedly successful testing,
Special and exclusive footage that is being played on SATV screen.
really coming to terms with Hamas.
Damage estimated between this entire issue.
President Trump is expected to hold bilateral talks.
Preserving biodiversity and tackling climate change.
We cannot protect the planet before we negotiate peace.
Where is it going? Is it understanding the needs of its people before the needs of this global world?
For China to
Welcoming our viewers back on International Affairs. We were talking about information, talking about the Middle East, as well as the rhetorics and narratives stemming from around the world, how information, governments and the citizens can coexist in societies. And with that being said, I want to ask Professor Rashid Alam Bhuiya, how do you feel about this FIFA World Cup? It is important to ask this very question because it would be the first instance a World Cup, the greatest show of all time, is being carried out between, if not interim periods of escalation in the Middle East. And of course, contrasting welcomes for the teams of Senegal and the teams of Spain ahead of the World Cup. It is important to denote that various teams are getting different treatments when it comes to Senegal. Senegalese players undergo individual security searches on airport tarmac after landing in the US. In comparison, Spanish players are welcomed with music, celebrations and fanfare upon arrival in Mexico. If you look back at 2018, when the nominations came by for who would be hosting the FIFA World Cup, we've seen a team up of the US, Mexico and of course Canada. However, today, in 2026, the world has changed drastically. We've seen the Ukraine-Russia war, and now we've seen a war in the Middle East. Whether or not there will be more wars is a hard question. However, the discrimination between players, this is a world event that should be hosting the themes of sportsmanship. I want to get know-how from you, the discrimination between various teams from various continents.
Yes. I think this greatest show of art, like the World Cup, was is introduced with the spirit of brotherhood, with the spirit of peace, with the spirit of tranquility among the nations. And that was the primary motive of that World Cup. And the racial discrimination, when we see it, that's where the treatment is giving on the different football team, is really unacceptable. I mean, you know, the white male supremacy, the white European supremacy is prevail. That is, we were talking about the decolonization of our thinking, but that doesn't happening. And because of, like, you know, after the decolonization in these Latin American countries, particularly, you know, how the black people has been eliminated from Mexico. If you know that history, how the black population has been eliminated from Argentina, with the government intention that you know, currently Argentina, you have not seen any black people. Why? Because there are 30% of the black population earlier in the Argentina. There are certain number of the people was black population in Mexico as well. But the government during the decolonization process, before the decolonization, they intentionally eliminate the other population of other creed, colors from their. So that is the white male European supremacists. That attitude needs to be changed. Otherwise, organizing this kind of massive global event doesn't make any sense. Because if your foundation is still very much based on racial discrimination, racial intolerances, and different way of treating the people of different classes, different colors, it's not totally acceptable. And as you said, like when a Spaniard team arrived, they're receiving, first-class treatment, whereas other people are treating that they could be a security threat, like as you said, the Uzbekistan team, like as you said, the Senegal team.
Right.
That's a total different approach. Every team should be treated equally, and that is the ideal of this greatest event of the art. Otherwise, we have no meaning to organize this, I think. Yeah.
Of course, beautifully stated by Rashid Alam Bhuiya, the disparity between the various teams, handling of these teams in this year's World Cup. Professor, I thank you for your time and your contribution here on the program, as well thanking Norman Flood Barnes for joining us numerously on this program almost every day. I want to end on a fact. Today is, of course, June 10th of 2026, and in this day in 1940, Italy formally entered into the World War the second on this very day. With that being said, I want to sign off on international affairs. I will see you all on tomorrow's program.